Life Audio.
Just ahead on Encouragement for You, we interview Focus on the Family Vice President for Families, Dr. Greg Smalley, and his wife, Erin, on two important topics. Stay with us.
Welcome to the Encouragement for You podcast, brought to you by Encouragement Communications in association with the Salem Web Network and is part of the Life Audio Faith Toolkit series. For more inspirational, faith-affirming podcasts, visit lifeaudio.com. In just a moment, your host, Don Hawkins, will introduce today's episode. First, a word from our sponsors. For many couples, adoption may be the only way to grow their family. For others, it represents another option. From their own experience adopting their daughter, Dr. Greg and Erin Smalley discuss adoption with host Don Hawkins.
Life has been busy for all of us, and I know it's been busy for you guys. You have some great news to tell us about.
Well, we've been literally waiting for this moment to happen now for over 1 year.
And that is to know that we have been officially matched with our little girl, Annie, who is in Beijing, China. She's 2.5, and she's going to come to live with us in 4 to 6 months.
Guys, congratulations. Erin, this has to be a very exciting piece of news that you guys have.
Oh, it sure is. We started this process almost a year ago, the end of February last year, and we didn't necessarily think that we'd be adopting a toddler at this point in our life, but God has made it so clear. He's been so good to us in that way that He has very much revealed and confirmed and reconfirmed, and I think he knew we needed to know those things.
Well, tell us, Greg, about the rest of the family and how little Annie is going to be integrated into the rest of the Smalleys.
Yeah, you know, what's cool about the story is that just the Reader's Digest version is that 5 years ago, Erin and I were speaking at a Christian camp, family camp, and so we sent the couples off. Kind of have just some real directed prayer time to see what God's revealing in your life. You know, is He directing you? What are you guys dreaming about?
Yeah.
And we really felt, as Erin and I went off and did that, we felt that He was calling us to adopt. And so as we got talking and really said this, yeah, we agree. And we ended up deciding that we wanted to adopt from China, a little girl, and we went ahead and named her so we could pray for her by name. And so we named her after Erin's mom, Rosalie Antoinette. We were going to name her Antoinette Rose and call her Annie. And so we've been praying off and on for the last 5 years, and what's neat about it is that we found out about this child through a good friend who told us about this little girl he met at this orphanage, loved her, thought she was cool, neatest thing, and we prayed for her because she needed some surgeries, and then Erin saw in an email correspondence between this guy and the orphanage director that this little girl's name was Annie. And so that's literally how we came to know her, was from her name.
Did you think it ironic, Erin, that you're familiar with the cartoon character Little Orphan Annie?
Yeah.
We hear that all the time.
Thought you probably did, yeah.
I know.
Yes. But the truth is, Don, is during that time I had prayed specifically for the Lord to drop a baby on our porch if we were supposed to adopt.
And He did.
And so I just, to all the listeners, be careful what you pray for.
Yeah, but never, I tell you, never in a million years did we think that we would be connected with this girl through a name. I mean, that's really what it was. And it's given us a different perspective on, you know, all the names that God has, the names that we have, our meaning, the meanings of our name.
Yeah.
And just how amazing it is. She, at this orphanage, some people were in volunteering and got to name her, and they took a couple days to kind of pray through, God, what name should we give to this child? And so whoever did this gave her the name Annie, and that's how we ultimately were connected.
Wow.
Cool. I mean, such a small, simple thing that you would never think about was really what led us together.
But, you know, it's just amazing how God delights. I think of Zechariah 4:10. It says, "Who has despised the day of small things?" And, here's a small thing, a small baby named in China with the same name that her parents here in the States want her to have. And, again, the connection, Erin, with your mom, who went to be with the Lord some time ago. In fact, we talked about that on the air significantly.
Yeah.
Now, how are the brothers and sisters going to, how are they responding?
I said all of that to say that this became such an amazing prayer experience for our family that we just decided as a family, the only way this is going to work is if we pray this little girl into our home.
Yeah.
And they have been so on board at every step of the way. We told them that, if ever you guys are concerned about something or having second thoughts, you're part of our team, and tell us. If it feels like a loss for you, let's step back and we'll pray that through.
Yeah.
And so I think that they're all so thrilled. As a matter of fact, we were talking just before we came on the radio about Taylor, our oldest daughter. She's almost 16. Her role, I had never even heard this. Where was I?
Literally, before you called us, we're just sitting on the couch talking to our daughter, Taylor, who's 16.
Uh-huh.
In 3rd and 4th grade, she was in a small group, and she has always been very passionate about adoption. And when we were moving from Branson to here, her small group leader took me aside and said, I want you to know your daughter has prayed every week for the last 2 years that you would adopt a baby.
Wow.
And I literally looked at her and I said, well, I really don't think it's going to happen.
That is incredible. Isn't that amazing?
That's a little money.
Yeah, and then when we cleaned out her room when we were moving, we found a Ziploc bag that she had been putting coins in, and on the outside of the bag, she wrote, money to adopt a baby.
Money to adopt a baby. Now, there's a sister whose prayers have been answered, and
yes.
I know she'll be a lot like Big Sister Miriam was with Moses. I'm sure she'll be very proactively involved in her care.
I think the point is that we've tried to involve them. Their feelings have mattered. We don't get obsessed about this process to where we still have many days where we don't talk about Annie, and we focus on their lives and their passions and what's going on with them. And so, we've tried to keep it balanced and keep them very involved. And, Maddie, our middle child, gave up her room, wanted Annie to have her room, so she took a room that's upstairs. And, Garrison, our son, just writes pictures and letters, and so it's neat how God's prepared their heart.
We'll be back with more after a brief word from our sponsors. And don't forget to listen for Don's live weekend talk show, Encouragement Live, heard Saturdays at 7:05 p.m. Central Time on American Family Radio and other radio stations around the country, as well as on the worshipchannel.org. Has anyone ever told you that you're too busy? According to host Don Hawkins, he hears that criticism from time to time. And that's the topic he discusses with Dr. Greg Smalley and therapist Erin Smalley during our next segment.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit about this whole area of busyness and staying connected relationally in a busy world. We've talked about the adoption. Erin, you've put your finger on a connection between these two subjects, the impending adoption that you guys have of Annie and the relational connection and the busyness of life. Talk to us about that.
Definitely. What we have experienced in our life is when we are so busy, just how easy it is to miss what God is saying to you and to miss the voice of God in the midst of having your eyes on everything else that's, around you, all the distractions. And I'm just so grateful. When God revealed Annie to us was a time that I was really crying out to him for him to reveal himself to me and and really watching and looking and waiting for him to just be there. And I really feel like when we are so busy, we miss it. And I know in my life, I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it anymore because I know there's things that I probably have missed just by being so busy.
I think of when you talk about busyness, maybe the poster girl for busyness was Martha in the New Testament. And Greg, take us back to that passage in Luke 10 and what took place there and what Martha almost missed out on.
Well, it was so classic because, as Jesus shows up to their house, she's being a good host, and she's, running around making sure that there's food and preparations and just running around. And you can just, you read that passage and you just feel that hectic kind of busyness that she's going about, opposed to her sister sitting down at the feet of Jesus and just being present in just kind of just being with Jesus. And not that we're not supposed to work hard, and it's not that that we don't have we've got to work and earn a living and do all these things, but there's just something powerful about making sure that we create margin in our life where we can just be with Jesus.
What do we mean by margin? I know Dr. Richard Swenson a number of years ago wrote an excellent book on the subject of margin, but help us understand exactly what we mean by the concept.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I believe that busyness is one of the most prevalent diseases in our culture, especially within our Christian world, because I think for so many Christians, we go about doing so many quote unquote good things. We're involved in ministry. We've got our kids, we've got, our spouse, we've got church activities, friends, whatever. We've got all these things to where we end up overextended, overcommitted. They say that about 70% of all U.S. marriages, both people work full time.
Yeah.
And so we've got all this, and then you add in sort of this hectic pace, to get all this stuff done, and we've got to run at this feverishly high, hectic pace, and sadly, all that has a huge consequence. And really, one of the best analogies for this consequence is what Erin and I learned when we were over in China, because they have. It's cool in the Mandarin language. There's two characters that make up for the word busy. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and actually what we found out was the two characters are heart and death equal busyness.
Wow.
And that's really what happens when you are so frantically busy and running at this hectic pace. It's almost like our hearts just die, and it shuts down. And God made us with hearts and brains, and both, and we need both to truly function that full life. And so many times we just go into overdrive and get into the thinking through life instead of feeling through life, and I think it just takes so much flavor out of what God desires. He wants us to live full, abundant lives.
And Don, that's what we think is so key, because everybody hears about all the physical health kind of problems, associated with busyness, the stress and the fatigue and burnout and anxiety, depression, and all the health problems. But yet, that's what no one talks about is the impact that this busyness has upon your heart, and it does shut you down, and God can't work through us. That's what He wants on this earth. He wants to work and love through us, and we get in the way, and we get in the way because we allow things to shut our hearts down. I'm so convinced that the evil one, he knows that Christians, that he can't keep us from reading the Bible. He's not going to keep us from going to church. He's not going to keep us from connecting to the Lord. So what does he do? I think what he does is he keeps us busy. He keeps us so distracted with all these other things, with the media and with TV and with just life, work, and business and running kids and doing all these things.
And now we have Twitter and Facebook and PDAs.
I think, too, another impact that it has on us negatively is our relationships, our marital relationship, our relationship with our kids, and our relationship with the Lord. And I've been reading about all this attachment stuff for the adoption, and one thing that they say that helps connect you with a child that you've adopted or your husband, your children, is eye contact. And over the last week, I have been so convicted over the times that I'm spending texting on the computer, busy, when my husband is talking to me, when Greg's talking to me, when one of the kids is talking to me.
Especially when you're driving.
Yeah.
Well, that's frightening.
Instead of giving them eye contact, I'm focusing my eyes on something else.
Some of the way that Erin, when there's something that she wants to really talk to me about, one of the things that I really appreciate what she does is oftentimes she'll go shoulder to shoulder with me, and you may be going, what in the world is he talking about? And I think that for guys, literally when a lot of times females, when you sit down and have a deep conversation, you kind of look across the table at each other, you're kind of staring at each other.
Yeah.
And I don't always think that's the best with a guy. I think guys love it when we do something together, when we go shoulder to shoulder, when we take a walk, when we take a drive. And so I would encourage you, think of something that you could do with your husband where you're maybe a little bit active, you're, shoulder to shoulder, and start just talking and just saying, hey, here's kind of what I've been seeing, and I love you, and praise him, encourage him, and then ask him if he would want to talk about what's been going on spiritually or just some things like that. But I think you're more likely to get guys to open up when we're doing something together.
We have been talking about staying connected relationally in a busy world. Greg, Erin, you guys have some practical tips for us that can help us with that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I think is so critical if you're going to stay connected, you've got to have frequent contact with your spouse throughout the day, with your significant other throughout the day. And the way that Erin and I do this, we try, every day that we do these brief phone calls, we'll do little text messages, small little emails, is a way to connect, is even a way to flirt with one another. And I think what it does, it communicates that you're thinking about one another. But what I like about it, especially as a guy, is that it's easy for me to kind of compartmentalize and silo. I'm thinking about work, and I'm doing work, and then I've got family. I worry about them later. And that's the worst thing that I can do. And I've got to make myself throughout the day make sure that I've allowed room to be thinking about my family. And that's why this frequent contact, I'm done with the meeting. I might jump on the phone with Erin for 30 seconds to say, hey, how you doing? What are you doing? Okay, bye. Talk to you later. And we do that constantly throughout the day.
Great idea. I just sent Kathy a text while you were saying.
You're flirting with her.
Of course, that was the one that I was going to talk about, and Greg just took mine.
Well, he stole yours. Okay, I bet you have another one that's just as good.
Sure. You know what? One that we always focus on I would say almost anything when it comes to marriage is have fun together.
Oh, yes.
And, just making sure that you're taking time to do something silly. Do something together that is going to lead to laughter. Maybe it's playing a sport together, golfing together. Hopefully it's laughter that leads to and not complete frustration. I know sometimes when I golf it's frustrating. But just doing things together, walking together, talking together when you walk, exercising together, just something that's lighthearted and fun.
And here's another one, Don.
Greg, okay.
I want everybody to think of a bookshelf to where they have these two bookends, okay? Holding up the rest of the books.
Okay.
The research shows that one of the most important times in a marriage is how you say goodbye in the morning and how you say goodnight before you go to bed. And so many people don't even pay attention to that. But we need to give eye contact. We need to say goodbye to my wife, need to kiss her, need to encourage her, pray with her. And then before we go to bed, the last thing that Erin and I do is we hold hands and we pray together.
Yeah.
And so, bookend this thing. Make sure that you leave well in the morning and that you go to sleep and say goodnight well.
Those are great recommendations, very strategic, very important. Erin, you have one more for us.
As we support having fun together, and women will appreciate this one, is to also do household tasks together. So often you get home from work, you've had a long day, and then there's dinner to be made, kids to be bathed, homework to be done, just laundry to be folded and put away. Do it together. Come together and take time to talk about what your day was like before you came home.
We'll alliterate that one. Call it Tackle Tasks Together.
There you go.
All right. Let's go back to the phones. Lorette is listening in Texas. Good to hear from you, Lorette. Go ahead.
How are y'all doing?
Very well. You had a question about adoption, I believe.
I did. My little girl is she's from Nanchang, China.
Oh.
And we adopted her probably, she's 6 now, so it's been about 5 years ago.
Wow.
And she's just, she's a neat little girl. She's really precious.
Neat.
But one thing I worry about, and I'm not extremely worried. I've just been kind of watching it over the years that we've had her. When we received her, she bonded to my wife. I had a beard, I had lots of facial hair, and she just didn't think I looked right. I don't know what it was, but
wow.
She really didn't want to have a whole lot to do with me. Now she wants to have. She's turned into daddy's girl, and that's good. But what I've seen throughout the years is it's like she has like an attachment, or not really an attachment, but whenever her mother gets out of her sight, whether I'm there or whether I'm not, she's like she's not frantic, but she feels that she has to be right with her.
Yeah, it has some separation anxiety, sounds like.
Yeah, let's get some feedback from Greg and Erin. Couple of minutes, guys.
I'm reading a great book right now, and I don't have the author, but it's called The Connected Child. And this author believes that any child who's been adopted or in foster care, and I've actually applied a lot of it to my biological children, that they deal with these issues because of what they've experienced previously, but there's specific things we can be doing to build those attachments. And as she's feeling this anxiety with your wife being out of her physical presence, what an opportunity to come in and to address and talk to her about what she's feeling and helping her identify what she's feeling, because that's not only going to help her discuss the separation anxiety, not in those terms, but also help her grow as an individual to be more in touch with her feelings.
And they say, Rhett, that the key is helping a child to feel safe emotionally and physically. And we do that by making it okay. They're feeling this anxiety. Help her put words to how she's feeling. The more you help her identify how she feels, it begins to de-escalate those emotions. Especially, sometimes as a dad, when my kids go to my wife or seem to prefer her, or when she leaves, they're upset. I take that personally. I'm like, well, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
So even being aware of your own emotions is so that you can create this safe place for her to deal with that anxiety, and then you jump in and you be the daddy that it sounds like you are. And the more that you focus on how do I really make her feel safe in this moment, man, she's going to do great.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Encouragement for You with Don Hawkins, host of Encouragement Live Radio and author of over 25 books, including Never Give Up and Master Discipleship Today. You can find more about Don and his books at encouragementlive.org. Encouragement for You is a production of Encouragement Communications with the Salem Web Network and lifeaudio.com. Editing by Phil Giebers, production by Elizabeth Andrade. If you enjoyed what you heard today, we'd love for you to head over to your favorite podcast app and leave us a review. It really does help people find us.
Let me take just a second to thank the team at Life Audio for their partnership with us on Encouragement for You. If you go to lifeaudio.com, you'll find dozens of other faith-centered podcasts in their network. They've got shows about prayer, Bible study, parenting, and more.
Stay encouraged and join us next time for Encouragement for You.